All right, everybody, welcome back to Yield Today with Dallin, Candland. I'm joined with the one and only AJ Frazier. He graciously accepted the challenge to be on the podcast.
Yes, thank you, Dallin. The one and only. I'm excited. Thanks for letting me be here.
Oh, absolutely. It's really interesting because we met because of the Yield acronym, I guess, in some way. We were singing at a state conference, so the congregation, they were doing like this kind of bigger event, and we were singing. It was kind of in front of me, and it ended. And, there's this big production, then it ends. And then everybody kind of goes back to their normal thing. We've kind of come together, and now everybody separates. And I just felt like I should kind of connect with you. And then a year or so later, here we are.
Here we are. Here we are as old men.
As old men, well experienced, new experiences.
Yeah, that was so fun. I know it's crazy that just flew by. It's been a year. It's wild.
Mm-hmm. So what have you been up to in that year?
Well, gosh, I've been here at BYU Idaho for most of it. When was that? That was like last winter. I stayed at school for 4 months. Then I went to San Antonio, Texas, which it was my first time there, and I sold pest control door to door.
Wow, my
Yeah.
respect.
Thank you. Yeah, it was thousands of doors a week, and
Sheesh.
hot. Never been to Texas. Grew up in California, but it was a good experience. And then now I'm back here in good old Rexburg, and I think it was 6 degrees today. So,
Jeez.
yeah.
Yeah, so I sold door to door for Alder for a little bit of time in winter 2019.
Oh,
I definitely learned a lot from that. What were some of the things you learned from doing door to door?
Yeah, well, there's a lot. I think for one, being the beauty of like having, they call it like the grind, but the beauty of being disciplined. I think it's difficult, but you get a lot of fulfillment out of it. Going to the gym each morning, eating the same thing, working the same schedule. And then I'd also say the camaraderie, the friendship, the bond, the brotherhood that you get with those people that just encourage you. That was probably one of the best, is that I just felt my most happy during most of the times during that summer. So, yeah.
That's cool, because with those guys, you're in the good times and the bad times.
They see it. They see you. They see it all. It's true. I'm sure you've experienced that too, where, like, and it's interesting because I actually did sales a couple years ago. Before that, and I had this thought of how like grateful I was for like that, because it really is encouraging. Like, you really feel at your best throughout the day. So anyways, I've reflected on that a lot, and yeah, it's true.
So basically, like, all the preparation you got from the first time and all those previous failures, you were thankful for those?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. It is an interesting gig, and I'm doing it again, if you can believe it. They got me to do it again.
Wow. There you go.
So,
Well, the main reason I wanted you on the podcast today, AJ, was because you kind of piqued my interest when you told me that you recently read the book Crucial Conversations, and you had some very good experiences kind of applying some of the information. Tell us a little bit about that.
yeah, so that book has been around for about, I think, 10 or 15 years. Honestly, I read it 2 or 3 years ago and really liked it a lot. I listened to it between classes, and I remember using it a number of different times. But this time was it was different. I just had a number of experiences where I really wanted to talk to a couple of roommates, friends, and I felt the value of it. It's a great book, and it gives some great tools of how to have effective conversations. And one of the things that stand out to me the most is that it's possible to keep a friend and tell the truth. So,
Yeah, I think that's really powerful, because I think sometimes we want to sugarcoat everything,
Yeah.
because they're our best friends.
Right.
And sometimes what our friends really need is the truth.
Yeah, it's true. And most often,
Actually, that is what they need, is the truth. What am I saying?
Truth.
They need that truth. Sometimes you just gotta give them that truth, because the truth, yeah.
It's true. And so many times it's almost paralyzing to have these kind of conversations. But when you have them, most often than not, as I've tried it in the last couple weeks, months now, as I've been trying to apply them, like it fosters greater connection. So, I think you're right.
Well, what would be like, let's say somebody wants to start applying some of those things and they haven't quite read the book yet. Kind of give us a little bit of a kind of a play-by-play of what they can do.
Yeah. So, if you think about it, what are some of... If I were to ask this question, I'm interested in what comes to your mind, and maybe listeners as well. Like, what do you think of when you think of crucial conversations?
I think of talking to my mom sometimes.
Okay.
It's like that's what immediately came to mind. It's like, I have something I want to work on, something I want to fix, and sometimes it's money.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, I bought this, but trust me, it's for a good reason, And that's kind of what came to mind. Or with school, just want to tell her the facts, and also just like listen to how she responds. That's kind of what came to mind.
Perfect. Family. Yeah. It's a family. Is it limited to family? No. Everyone. Friends. Education. Our most important relationships in our life. Usually we have these kind of conversations. And honestly, the first thing I would say is something that my dad told me. He said, AJ, don't even attempt to have the conversation unless you've created safety. Like, unless people feel safe, which is really interesting, but it's also really true. No one is going to open up. No one's going to be vulnerable and share. And so if you're trying to have an effective conversation where you both are able to have open dialogue, I would say that, first and foremost, create safety. And that looks like different things for different people, but one of the things I do a lot is I apologize. Usually I'm wrong a lot of the times. Actually, that's not true. I feel like I'm right in a lot of my life, but we mess up a lot, and so always apologize. That's something I do at least.
That's good. It makes me think of somebody climbing up on a tightrope and they're walking across, and the difference is, do they have like a trampoline below them, or do they have spikes below them? If they have a trampoline below them, that's a safety net. It's like, if this doesn't go well, I can just bail and try again. If it's like spikes, it's like a lot more pressure, and if you haven't created that safety, I imagine it's like there's that pressure, and they think how this conversation goes could negatively impact their whole life.
Yeah, definitely. Or safety vest. You're swimming.
Safety vest, yeah. If
you're a little kid and your parents are asking you to swim, have a safety vest. Yeah, it's great. It's true. Mm-hmm. And I really feel like that is the first thing, and then secondly, if I can, as I think about it, it's interesting because once you've created safety, then you have to you have to repeat and this is really important. Actually, let me backtrack for a second. So before all of this, I actually always start with my own heart. That's one of the things the book said, start with heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you start with your own heart, what does that mean? What are your intentions? Why are you wanting to have this conversation in the first place? If you start there, and you find your why, and it's clear and it's good, so I start there first.
Having a clear why is very vital, for sure.
Definitely. But and then throughout the conversation, because sometimes it can go south, and it can be scary. Sometimes, but more often than not, people I think appreciate it, and so I always say, I just want to have a conversation, and I'll kind of keep repeating that, like, are you okay if we have a conversation? Is now an okay time? Obviously, you want to respect the person's time, because a lot of this stuff is the right time, right place, but verbalizing that, can we? I just want to have a conversation about this. I noticed this. I just want to have a conversation. Is that okay? So, I found that to be helpful.
Yeah, and in my money management book, little shout out to my money management teacher in class. It's pretty good, even though it's online. Was learn about the halt. So if they're hungry, anxious, lonely, or tired, probably is not a good time to initiate that conversation either.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Unless you're gonna take them to Bojangles or the like when they're feeling hungry.
True. Or blisters.
Blisters would be
BYU,
good.
Idaho.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Talking about that with a friend today. Best barbecue out here. Little shot to blisters.
I haven't been, but definitely someday.
Oh, it's good. You'd like it. Yeah, I agree. You don't want to be too hungry or lazy or tired or whatever. Yeah, make sure you're taking care of yourself. I actually think that's really important, because if you don't, then and it's kind of interesting. One of the things they mentioned in this book is that most often than not, when we're like in conversations, when we need to be at our best, we're usually at our worst, or something like that. Where, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but
sometimes, I mean, I think that does make sense, because for me, I feel like with a lot of things I do, I have to warm up. I don't just get on the basketball court, I'm already just draining threes. Usually that doesn't happen.
Right.
I usually have to just practice beforehand, so that makes sense.
Right, definitely.
The best comes later on.
Yeah. Yeah, or in terms of conversations, normally when so if someone stole from you and you had an idea who it was, that might be a crucial conversation. And so how do you approach that person? Like, how do you talk to them without hostility and anger and malice? I mean, it's natural if you accuse someone. So that's why I found this book really helpful, because it gave, a really good guideline where I was able to have a really open dialogue with people really close to me that I really do care about and matter to me a lot. And it was great. And, and I think, unfortunately, more often than not, we don't have these conversations, right? We're scared, and it makes sense, but I found that people are craving, especially right now, with everything going on, people are craving connection and are suffering alone and do not feel that love. And so if we have these conversations with people, and we know what they are, right? I mean, I don't need to tell you what they are. You know what they are, whether your roommate or your spouse or anyone. It really can be very productive and very helpful. People don't have to suffer alone. So I really believe that.
And it can really, I had some conversations like this that I would definitely consider as a crucial conversation, and they really can build up the relationship and strengthen it in a different way, and just have a different sense of trust for the other person, a different sense of appreciation for them, a new sense of that. So definitely handling it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Yeah, so you get them, you kind of ease them into it, and you just show you're being genuine, and then what after that?
Yeah, so creating safety is really important. Expressing your desire to have a conversation, having that little dialogue, I'd like to have a conversation, and being truthful about it, because you can say it, but if your heart's not in it, people can feel that. So that's really important. Once you've done that, I think the hard part's over. I'll just share this. So I had a roommate whose girlfriend was in the back, and here at BYU Idaho, it's part of the honor code, part of one of the rules. And I voiced it to him a while back, and he respected that, and then I saw her again, and anyways, we were in this conversation, which is normally it's not something I'd normally do, but we're in it, and I was praying the whole time, because a lot of these times it'll go south really easily. But after I shared I just want to have a conversation, I noticed she was in the back. You kind of share what you saw or what you think you saw, and a lot of what this is clarifying. Do I understand? Did I see that correctly, or what am I missing? So I'd said I saw her in the back. Obviously, this is against the rules. Do you remember that, or does that make sense? Or so yeah, I think creating that dialogue can look differently, but I think as you because you speak openly. I just remembered my last point. Before that, you what's the end goal? It's normally some sort of agreement or consensus.
Mm-hmm.
Sharing that is helpful. I just want to come to some sort of agreement or consensus.
Just saying that blankly, just I want to come to a consensus. Not even a consensus about like specific. You don't have to specify it.
I don't think so. I mean, you could if that's what you want, but normally the outcome's not kind of unknown.
True.
So it's some sort of agreement where we both agree to do something.
Gotcha.
That's the next
and kind of the different spin I wanted to take on it with this episode is being able to have those crucial conversations with yourself. Because maybe, just maybe, you had a really great day and then you went to Five Guys and you got their biggest burger and you just kind of caved because you had these fitness goals and decided to put them to the wayside. Then you need to like have that conversation with yourself like, hey, is this something you really want? You know, do you know what you were doing? Do you know all these different things?
And then you go for the chocolate milkshake, and then there's fries, and then you want a second burger, right? Been there.
It's really easy to let it get out of hand if you don't catch it early. That's something that I kind of learned on the mission is like it's really easy for something to become a habit, even if it's never been a habit ever. And that's for good or bad.
Yeah.
So what have been some ways, and we can kind of spitball back and forth with each other, but what have been some things you've had to have conversations with yourself about?
That's a really good question. Before this, we were talking about like direction in life. I think that's a big one. Is where am I going in life? What's my goal? What's my end outcome? And really getting real and raw with yourself and doing that. That's one I have to do quite often, and I'd like to do more often than not. Because to be honest, it's really easy to forget. You know, I forget about myself a lot. It kind of sounds weird, but just kind of get in the motion, go on autopilot. Right? We talked about that. I don't know if that's something you've talked about before on your podcast, but I think that's really important to re-clarify, reassess, reevaluate, recommit, you know, where you're going. That's one for sure.
Yeah. That's something that I've talked about a little bit when it comes to choosing to focus on something, like really intently to get something done. So like with a magnifying glass, you know, the magnifying glass is just a magnifying glass, but with the sun, with an ant, can put it on fire because there's just so much focus.
Yeah.
And so if you're able to develop this not wishy-washy relationship with yourself and say this is where we're going right now with this behavior, whatever it is, whether it's staying up late, I've done that a lot. You know, it's like no matter what you want this to be a 2-minute thing, you hop on Facebook real fast, it's not going to be that way most likely. And when you catch those things early, when you are really clear and honest with yourself and are really trying to think ahead, it can be super beneficial to help you get where you want to be.
Definitely. And it's interesting because if we go back to the book, the first thing that you have to do with others is create safety. But how do you create safety with yourself? Right? Because more often than not, I mean, I'm just speaking for myself, I'd like to think I'm pretty open, but sometimes I feel like I don't want to talk about these things with myself because it's not a fun subject to talk about, you know? And so one of the things I've done recently is I will tell myself, like, AJ, I do not judge you. Like, I love you. And whatever you say or do, like, I'm going to be here. I'm not going anywhere. Kind of sounds funny. But that creates some sort of safety.
Yeah.
Where even you yourself can begin to talk to your own self, you know? Like, it opens that door of authenticity with your own self.
I think that's so important. For me, like, I've been prioritizing the journey and the learning process. So last night or 2 nights ago, I had put off this one econ assignment until really late. And I was like, literally clicking to guess on the answers because I wasted so much, not wasted a ton of time, but just time wasn't organized very well. So I didn't have the majority of time for this econ assignment as I'd hoped. But I just kept telling myself, Dallin, it's okay. Like, this is you're learning, right?
It's okay, Dallin. Don't listen to anyone else. It's okay.
Yeah,
no,
you're,
I know exactly
like,
what you mean.
What's important is that you feel this. You feel this, like, oh no, because that can be turned into an oh yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you need to, if you're able to do that, that's what's valuable. And one quote that's really stuck with me is like how a coach is not going to stop, picking on a player unless he thinks they aren't going to try anymore. But he's going to keep pushing them. He's going to keep trying. He's going to be like, I'm going to keep helping you to become everything you want to become. With me being the basketball manager, I saw some kids in JV who were picked on hardcore. It's just like, holy cow. But then later they're playing varsity. It's because the coach saw something in them.
Yeah. Totally. I think there's a lot of different applications for this in life and so forth. And one of the things that is really that we should pat ourselves on the back for is just showing up. Right? Whether that's school, work, or having these conversations with yourself. No one wants to do this. We're naturally inclined to just watch Netflix, right? And just sit around eating a bag of potato chips. I think the older I get, the more I realize that. And so we pat yourselves on the back each time you're just showing up. You're just there, even if it's not pretty. You've tried it. That is so commendable. People that keep doing it, or journaling. That's another thing that's helped me in these crucial conversations.
Yeah,
journaling it beforehand, doing a little role play before.
That's good. Yeah, journaling always gets me in a self-reflective mindset. I did a little bit of journaling before you got here.
Yeah,
it was definitely helpful to like clear my mind and everything like that.
Yeah, I love it. Journaling's the best.
So I think when it comes to going into a difficult situation, it really helps to have a good idea of what's coming up and assessing all those facts. So it's called the Stockholm paradox or Stockdale paradox. I read about it in Good to Great. It was basically having an unrelentless, enthusiasm and belief that you are going to come out on top, but at the same time acknowledging all the brutal facts, all the craziness. So how have you been able to do that you served a mission in England, a completely different country. I'm sure that wasn't easy. What was some time you were able to use that Stockdale paradox, I guess, without you even knowing about it?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll just clarify so I understand correctly, but
yes.
I think what you're asking is like, when have I... Maybe ask it one more time. Sorry, I'm really slow at learning sometimes.
No, it's okay. It's just basically like you're able to be, have faith that things were going to work out, but at the same time you were fully accepting all the things you could not control that were kind of against you, so to speak.
Oh, yeah. I felt like that was an everyday experience. For any of you who've been to England, personally for me, it was a shock. A lot of my friends went to foreign countries, and England was as foreign as I've ever been. It's a beautiful place. But it was so different. It was the first time I was out on my own by myself. I just tried to not, initially at least, I don't think I consciously acknowledged it. I think subconsciously I'm like, okay, this is it's cold. If you've been to England, it's cold. It's piercing wind. People are very frank. People are very, they'll put your hand up and they'll say, see you later, right in the middle of the conversation, or they'll just walk away. They're very honest and blunt and frank, and it was so new, and yet I think the nature of what I was doing there was doing the opposite of what the whole world does, and that is, love and serve um, and be an example and a light and smile, smile even when there's no sun, and yeah, I think it was a very I think I had good examples around me too that really helped with that as well. But yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
That's good. So you're able to appreciate some of the aspects of it that you had of being in that specific area as opposed to other things. I mean, before we hopped on, you were, mimicking accents and stuff like that. And so it sounds like you really learned to grow to love the...
Oh, I love them. I love them all the Mancunians, all the Scousers and all the Mancunians. England's the best. I do. And it's true. I really do. Like that, I'd pray every day. I'd pray every day to just see people as people, and see them specifically as children of God, but to see people as they really are. And it is a huge miracle and blessing to see what happened. You're these people that are in the worst of places. Some of them are just going through the worst of things in life. Some of them are having the worst days. I remember one time I was on the bus, or we took the bus a lot, double-decker buses, right? I think we were in the bus station, and some kid was just yelling. We call them chavs.
Mm-hmm.
Kids that are kind of up to no good. They're just probably don't have a home, but they're just downtown, and he had this, I don't even know what it was. I think it was a big old thing of like soda or water, and he chucked it at me.
Oh no!
And he didn't hit me a lot, but I felt it a little bit. Just kind of walked away, didn't really think much of it, and I don't even, I was grateful it was me, because I don't know how many other people would have turned around and swung at him. But I mean, the reality is, I think a lot of people are hurting, and they just react, and it was amazing to kind of be able to almost be callous to it, but I think to be honest, it was more of love, and I really attribute that to all the good men and women I got to surround myself with. So
that's cool. Kind of what I'm getting from this is you probably had some conversations with yourself, so when you got into this situation, you knew how you were going to react, and then you prayed to help you not forget that in the heat of the moment.
Exactly. Yes. Yep. I think you said it best.
Good. So now with what you've learned from the book, now you've been on a podcast. Like, what's next for you with applying this information?
That's a great question. I'd say, honestly, I really don't feel adequate enough to be teach this, but I know that I think people like it. I'm at the point now where I'm like, I recognize that I'm probably not the professor of crucial conversations. I'm in the process of applying for a job there, but even more than that, like I recognize that I'm not where I want to be, but and I'll continue to have crucial conversations. I think that's first and foremost what I'll do, is seek them out and really practice them and get really good at them. But I do want to start teaching people how to have these effective conversations. I was at a game night with some friends a couple weeks ago, and one after one, after I kind of shared this experience with these friends, one after one, they were like, my friend this, my roommate that, my family this, and I think people were just really suffering and need our conversation, need our love, need our voice, need our presence, and to really be that for them. And so I want to start teaching, having little seminars, dare I say, where people can come and learn how to have real conversations, crucial conversations. So, yeah. And then, let's see. I hope to do something like that with my life. I'm a business major right now, and I think in business, if I decide to go that route, or I'm also really interested in like therapy, I think there'll be numerous, more than enough opportunities to discuss these sort of things.
That sounds good. That sounds good. I'm glad that you've been able to be enlightened by the stuff talked about in the book, and that you're able to, share with me. It's really awesome.
Thanks for asking about it. It's been fun.
Yeah. Just super fast, kind of a thought that was on my mind is like, sometimes God wants to talk to you, and that's really interesting, because I think sometimes we shy away from that, but we forget that He's our Father in heaven, that He knows everything about us, all the best things, all the worst things, and He still loves us infinitely. He still wants to help us with everything. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but, the Lord doesn't stop reaching out to those He cares about, because for all of us, we're always all-stars. We're all His favorite, and with coaches, sometimes they'll play favorites, but with Heavenly Father, He knows all of our infinite potential and will continue to reach out to us. And for me, one way I've been able to have those crucial conversations with Him is in the scriptures, or sometimes just in the still quiet moments. I'll just kind of be thinking or listening to some quiet music or something like that. But yeah, just like I believe the guy who wrote Crucial Conversations was in part inspired to write it, by God, God's also going to help us with all these different things. He's not going to be silent in this, in all of this that we're going through.
It's true. I couldn't agree more. I think another thing I'll say about this is, I think why I'm most excited, one of the reasons why I'm really excited about a lot of this, is because it is really small and simple. It doesn't have to be really complex. And, if a small and simple guy like me can do it, anyone can do it. And I think we have a lot in us. And I like how you said, like, God is, we're His all-stars, like each one of us individually. Collectively we make it, but think of it individually, because it's true. Like one by one, we are everything to Him. For those of you who have kids, that I've got a cousin that I just am head over heels for. She's so cute. She's like 1.5 years old. I was holding her. I didn't want to let her go. She's not even my kid, and I think that can't even imagine how He feels about each one of us. I really believe that we are there's so much in us that is beautiful and wonderful, and He sees it all, and He'll let you know.
He'll let you know if you ask, and you keep an open mind and are willing to serve other people, because a lot of times it's how I've gotten answers, is from serving others.
Yeah, it's true.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Well, how can the listeners get in touch with you if they'd like to ring you up?
Well, you can find me on Facebook, AJ Frazier. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can come here to Rexburg, Idaho. I'll take you out to Blisters. Best barbecue out here. And I don't know if you've ever heard of. I feel like Soulja Boy. Have you ever heard that song, Kiss Me Through the Phone? He gives his number right at the end.
Yeah. I remember that song from I think I was 12 years old when it came out, probably.
My mom, she's like, AJ, you can kiss me through the phone. She thought she was so funny.
Oh my gosh. Nice.
Yeah.
Some good
Thank
stuff.
you. Thank you for talking to me and letting me be here. It's a blessing.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a real blessing to know you, and we'll definitely be in touch, and I'll look forward to having you on again to talk about more stuff.
Cool. Look forward to it.
Sweet, man. All right. I thought that was pretty good.
Thanks. Yeah, that's it too. It's a fun conversation. I'm, I was really